Hi everyone, Sam here. Welcome to another episode of Azure Snippets. Today we're going to talk about just-in-time VM access and how we can lock down our virtual machines to make them more secure, but still actually be able to access them remotely when we need to. So just-in-time access is something that's been available for quite a while now, and it's part of Azure Security Centre. What it allows you to do is lock down the ports to your virtual machine so that during normal operation these ports are inaccessible, but when you need to actually access them you can do so for a specified period of time and providing you have the right permissions, and then when you're done they will be disabled again. And this is primarily going to focus around ports for remote access, so RDP, SSH, WinRM, those sort of things. Although you can configure it for actually any port you want, those are going to be the most common ones. So today we're going to have a look at how that works, how we enable it and how we use it. So, as I mentioned, just-in-time access is a feature of Security Centre. So you need to have the machines that you're going to use onboarded into Security Centre. If you haven't done that, you don't know how to use that, I recommend looking at the Security Centre documentation. You also need to have the Security Centre Standard Edition enabled. So this is a feature that's in Standard, it's not in Basic, so you do have to pay to have Standard enabled on these VMs. Once you've got the machines on board into the Security Centre, we can then look at turning on just-in-time access. So if you go to the Security Centre overview and look under the Advanced Cloud Defense section, you've got just-in-time VM access here. Now at the moment I don't have it enabled for any VMs in my demo subscription, so there's nothing listed here. We can look in the recommended section and this will show the machines that are in the subscription, that are on board into the Security Centre but don't have it enabled. So we're going to turn it on for this dev VM 0. So if we tick that and then we click enable JIT on 1VMs, and then it's going to ask us which ports do we actually want to enable for just-in-time access. So this is a Windows machine, I'm not using SSH, so we're not going to do port 22. We'll allow RDP and we'll allow the WinRM ports as well. So we'll click save on that. And that will then configure the VM for just-in-time access. You'll notice that I actually got an error here. This isn't actually an error in resolving or in turning on just-in-time administration. It's actually an error when trying to resolve the warning that we should enable it. I don't know why that's not worked, but that doesn't actually affect it. So if we go back to the configured tab, we can see that this VM is actually configured for just-in-time access. How this actually works is that when you enable just-in-time access, it configures the NSG rules for the VM to deny those ports initially. So if we go have a look at the resource group where that VM lives, and in here we've got two NSGs. The one that's actually applied to this is the private subnet NSG. It's applied at the subnet level here rather than the machine level. Just-in-time access will configure whichever NSG is applied. And you can see now we've got some rules in here. So we've got three rules, one for each, one for RDP and the two WinRM rules. They're configured for that machine's IP address only, and they're denying all access to any traffic on those ports. So now if we try an RDP to that machine, we won't be able to, the connection will just fail. Okay, so now that's configured. What if I actually do want to access the machine? What I can do is go to the machine I want to access. So normally when we click this connect button, we just get an RDP file to download. Now it's identified the fact that this is actually configured for just-in-time access, and we actually have to request access. We can download the RDP file anyway if we want to, but obviously with those ports closed, we won't get access. So we can pick the IP address we want to connect on. We want to use the public IP address, or the DNS name here in this case, and we want to access on port 3389. So we'll request access, and this is going to log the fact that I have requested access to this machine. I'm an owner on this subscription, but I have rights. If I didn't have rights, so there is an RBAC role that allows me to configure this, if I didn't have rights, it would deny my request and it would log that. So now that we've done that, it will allow us to download the RDP file, and we can hit connect. I'll ask us for the username and password as normal, and we're able to connect. We've now connected to that VM, we can do whatever we need to. The just-in-time policy is going to stay open, so the ports are going to stay open for the time period we configured when we set up just-in-time. Now that it defaults to 3 hours, so after 3 hours the ports on the NSG are going to revert back to closed, and if we need to connect again then we'll need to reapply our just-in-time access policy. You can edit those that time period if you need to by going into the policy and clicking on edit, and then clicking on the port you want, and then you can reduce or increase the time if you want. You can also configure in here allowed IP addresses, so you can configure which IP ranges are actually going to be allowed to request or connect over a just-in-time connection, and that's going to amend your NSG rules appropriately, and you can do that for a whole block or a single IP address, and you can configure which protocols are supported as well. That's how you request access if you want to use RDP or SSH to connect. If you wanted to connect, say, using WinRM, where obviously there isn't like a nice simple connect button in the Azure portal, what you can also do is go back to Security Centre and into the just-in-time VM access page. And if you select the VM you're interested in and click Request Access, you get to another page that actually allows you to configure specific ports. So I can say, I want access to the WinRM ports, and just that I'm not interested in RDPing at this point, and I'm going to open those ports, and that will then open those WinRM ports for 3 hours as well. So that's how you access it. The last thing is just how you look at the actual audit records. So if we come back over into Security Centre to our VM and click on the option here, you can see you've got the activity log option here. And if we click on that, that will give us some audit information on who's actually requested access and whether they were granted access or not to the VM. So this is just using the normal Azure audit log functionality. So you can see here we've got some other events that happen on that VM around starting the machine and so on. But you can see here that I have initiated a just-in-time access policy. And if we expand that, and if we click on the actual activity log event and then look at the JSON, you can see here that the request was initiated, and if we scroll down, you can see who initiated it and what resource it was initiated on, and you can see from the status that it succeeded. So you can get that information from the audit log here. Possibly not the nicest view of those things because it's all in JSON and so on, but that does give you the information. You can then obviously import the activity log records into something like Log Analytics and report on those in whatever way you choose. And so that's how you enable and use just-in-time VM access with the Azure Security Centre. Hopefully that was useful, and I'll see you next time on Azure Snippets.